Hey guys, and welcome to Pheas Airsoft, where today I'm going to be doing a disassembly on this ENC Airsoft 416A5 Geissele CTR Full Metal AR. Hey guys, and welcome back. If you do enjoy this content today, please do consider liking, commenting and subscribing, because those interactions are going to help the channel to get seen by the YouTube algorithms, help the channel grow. If you want to support the channel a little bit more, the join button down below will take you to channel membership, 99 pence a month or equivalent in your country, loads of custom content for you guys, totally optional, massively appreciated. Pheas merch is now available as well on the Linktree link down below, which will take you to my merch store. And last but not least, that Linktree link will take you to all of my socials, including my Discord as well, so do come along and join us in that great community. So, massive thanks again to Casual Cookie for letting me, excuse me, not only unbox, but do a disassembly on this ENC 416A5 Geissele CTR Full Metal AR. Just rolls off the tongue, that model name, doesn't it? So we're going to do a disassembly and have a look at what's inside. I'm particularly keen on seeing how good the quote-unquote Quick Change 2.0, as they call it, is actually on here. So, mags out. I've left the stock off, which I showed before, which you need a flathead screwdriver to remove, to just pry on there. Again, if you do know of a better way, this was literally filmed immediately after the unboxing, so if you commented on that video of a better way to do that, take the stock off, I will not have seen it, unfortunately. So just to keep that in mind. So get that out of the way. Got my trusty toolbox with me, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this little grub screw in here, just to have a look at what size it needs. So first of all, we're going to try a little hex head. So I've gone for a size, is that 1.3? Must be a 1.3. That does not bite into there. Let's try, I'm guessing that might be a 1.5. And that is the size. In fact, I can even undo that with just my finger. There is the grub screw, and then this will come off negative thread, so it comes off the opposite way to usual. So what should be tightening it just loosens it off. So let's tighten that back down. Let's find that won't go all the way back down, so it will. You will go back. There we go, that's better. That's because the collar wasn't quite sat back in the right position, so it was blocking it from going all the way back to its starting position with this basically underneath. What I will do is just nip that tight as well. There we go, so that's not coming off anytime soon. So next thing, move the winding key for the mag out. Next thing, we've got this big sort of chunky screw here, and I'm going to need potentially 2. So I should be able to initially just, that's well tightened. It's time to upgrade to a big boy. Wow, that's really stiff. I'm not going to fight that further because I don't want to damage screws. Basically, you should be able to undo this screw, which connects through to this side. Maybe I need to undo this side first. So a slight interruption there, my phone was overheating. It's actually, I filmed this on the hottest day of the year so far in the UK, which is middle of June 2022. So the screw's going around a little bit, so I don't want to battle that anymore, but you undo the screw and the rail unit will come off. There is a gas block grub screw just under there. Hopefully, I can't quite tell that in there, and that should, as well as looks like there's a pin in there as well that might need to be pushed out to take the gas block out as well, and that leaves you with the barrel nut in there. So next thing we're going to do is the front body pin just comes straight out. Now, it is a locking type, so it stays in the body and just pulls out and through. That's quite handy like that. I'm just going to separate the body, lifting the bolt cover up. Come on. I'm wondering, I suspect at the minute that this is getting in the way, so I'm going to try and remove the bolt release out of here. So just push that pin. I'm just going to try and get it out with some needle nose. Try some with a little bit better grip. Or have I done this wrong? Does it actually go out the other way? I bet it goes out the other way. I bet there's teeth on it. There is. Right, bear with me. Okay. So there was a pin in there and it had little teeth, and the little teeth were on this side, so I've pushed the pin out that way. So that now should, and it does, disconnect that rod. That's awesome. Now, is that actually going to make a blind bit of difference to that coming out though? So it went off camera and had a bit of a fight. Basically, this is getting in the way. And even fully depressed, you can still see there's a little bit of a catch to it there. You can see where it's sort of shined up a little bit, where it's scratched off. So what I've had to do is, as I've started separating it, I've had to sort of twist the upper as much as possible until it's literally, and you can see there where it's sort of rubbed against it, where that edge is silvered off. So repeated doing that will definitely help and sort of smooth it off. So just wash my hands, a bit of moisture on there. And but it is initially, it's going to be a little bit of a pain, that being there. But we did get it out in the end. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this stock, and I am looking at, pretty sure it's a hex head. So let's get my bits out of my extension bar. Okay. If in doubt, stick a flashlight down there and have a look. Right, okay. It's actually not. Does it actually screw off? Wow, okay, wow, oh, wow, that's, oh, right, cool. So that was actually, so what I did was I loosened off the castle nut, I want to say, this large nut here, so that there was a little bit of movement, and then the whole thing just pushed, quarter twist and lifted off, which I'll re-show you when we reassemble it. So far, I am liking the quick change element, if this is going to continue to be as good as it is. There's the sling plate then, and then it's literally just this element here. Now, I can't get enough purchase on it, however, no, it's too thick. If you get yourself a thin screwdriver, let's go one of these, and put it through, and then I've got enough purchase there to start it off and get it going out of the way. Be careful it's not going to fire out, hold on tight and get ready for it. Don't know how big these threads are. Now it does make the body sort of semi-proprietary, but it has got the correct lugs to have an aftermarket stock tube on it if you want, or other stock. There is the spring guide, so it's bearing based. This is obviously very substantial and chunky and very solid. So I can withdraw the spring there. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this pistol grip off. So looks like I twist that. There's the motor adjustment by twisting that out of place. But it actually looks like this is mostly retained, I'm guessing by both actually. So if I remove that plate first, and then there's two Phillips heads in there. Well, that's impressed me no end as that stock tube and removal. So I'll leave those over there out of the way. And then there we've got our motor. So we've got the red terminal at the back, and the red wires come up the front. So up the front, over to the back, and the black wire is up the front and onto the black terminal at the front there. So the black wire has also come from the back hole forward and up. So we've got 2 more Phillips heads in there. I'll show you the motor in a second. In fact, I'll do it now. So there is the standard motor. Looks, from what I can remember, it looks absolutely identical. It says Geissele motor. Oops, daisy, on the motor. And there's no other markings on that motor but Geissele. So carefully just push those connectors in there so they're not snagging and pulling, because we don't want to damage our wiring. There goes our pistol grip. Get that out of the way. So we're nearly into the gearbox, so we're going to take out the well, that's a little bit tricky. So the mag release has actually got a grub screw in the top of it down there. There we go. So I've got a 1.2. Oh, just releases it. Fair enough, that's even easier. And it flies away. So the grub screw just released it off the end of the mag catch, and you can see there the dent in the top. So there's the spring. The grub screw sits on top like that and then just screws down into position. So that was a it's not even that, it's a 0.09 grub screw. I'll put those all together out of the way with the spring for it. Move that as well. Just realised we've not done the barrel yet. So let's have a look at the barrel. So there's the barrel and the hop. The barrel is mostly clean. There's odd little bits of spatter down there, dust, and that is the hop fully on, and it was more than happily hopping at 2.5s and wasn't quite fully on either. So that is the hop, and it is just a standard sort of hop unit type, and it is a roll down to add hop type. So slide that back in there. Standard brass 6.08mm barrel from the information that's online. There's a little release there. Now I'm guessing I'm going to have to take both of these off. The joys. Here we go. Too small. Torx 8. So I've got a Torx 8 here. I'm going to use a Torx size 8 to remove this selector. The reason I typically use Torx is because those for hex heads, because when I stop dropping things, is because they seem to grab on the Allen key bolts better and stop any sort of rounding going off. So caught the ball bearing. There is the ball bearing rolling away from me. Keep those safe. And it does look like the VFC sort of style. So you've got slightly larger lug on the front and a slightly smaller one on the back, corresponding with obviously the same thing on that side. And that is the safe position. So you've got the slightly larger hole at the front and the slightly smaller one at the back. So let's take this one off. Again, Torx size 8. Again, keep it safe because we don't want to lose anything. There's nothing under that one for retainer. Now, if I drop out the trigger pin and the rear body pin, that should, famous last words, come out. So I'll just tap that back body pin. Hopefully it is a locking type again. So we've just got that body pin there. There we go. So the body pin has got little teeth and they were on this side of the body receiver. So I'll put that down. So now we should have, he says, that's in the way, that's in the way. This happened before. So there is a C-clip which I'm going to remove. So there is basically, down here, there is a little tiny sort of clip. There we go, look. There is the clip. And that's on the pin, stopping it come out. Now, with it in, it's actually in my way and stopping me getting this out. There is the latch. There is a teeny tiny little spring there. Which I'll show you in a second. Carefully feed that out. There we go. So there is a little teeny tiny spring here, which is what this just sits on. Kind of precariously, really. Like that. Now it looks like it's also partially broken as well, which we'll investigate further. So next we've got a gear on this side that's sort of like semi-glued in. So that is the safe position on this side of the gearbox. That is the safe position on this side of the gearbox. So I'm going to lift that out, put that down, not get that one out yet. I'm going to pry these apart. So my phone turned off without me realising there for a minute or two. So I've had to really sort of will hand it to them that the little cam that connects through was well stuck together. So I was happy how solid that was, and there's very little movement in that, unlike the sort of the VFC sort of stuff. So I am happy with that. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take all these screws out and have a look inside. So I'm hoping one of these will fit the bill. Nope, what's that one? T10. Let's try 7. Let's try T8 and see if that was it. T8 is the man of the hour. They are 8mm bushings by the looks of it, which it was listed online as having 8mm bushings. Make sure you keep the screws in the right order of which to come out, just in case there's a slight variance in length at all. Well, there we go. Since my last disassembly, I've had a request to get a digital caliper, so I have got a digital caliper to measure the air nozzle as requested. That screw was difficult to get out. So all the screws are out now. Let's flip this open and have a look. That one came out from there. So, pretty bog standard gearbox in there. The anti-reversal latch is well in, but not jumping all over the place. The let's wind that back and have a look at the angle of engagement. Trigger's well seated. And so I'll lift that out for you. Ooh. It's not, as you can see there, that's all the way forward. It does go in at, I'll tell you what, I don't know why I'm fighting with it. Urgh. Right. drop that in position. There's the piston in position. Right, so now angle of engagement then. And that sits in there. It's not perfect, but it is very damn close. It is really very close to being nearly flat surface to flat surface. So if you don't know what angle of engagement is, the angle of the back tooth and the angle of the piston and the first tooth of the sector gear should effectively marry up. So there's the angle of the piston there, and this is the back tooth, and the gear tooth should come out, and you're wanting as perfect contact as possible because it makes the best connection and obviously reduces wear, because if it comes in like this, then it's rubbing until it catches and then pulls it back. And obviously we want the best possible connection to reduce wear and potential damage to the piston and things. So it is a full metal tooth piston, and let's have a look at that compression. Wow, that's excellent compression. Got my digital calipers to measure, zero them out, there we go, zeroed out. Let's measure this. So that's crushing it there. So 20, I'm guessing that's a 20.1. That is the measurement that my calipers are giving me for the air nozzle front to back. Let's just take it out of that, make sure that nothing's getting in the way on the back there. There you go. Right. There you go. Perfect. Get rid of that, turn them off. And then let's check the air compression on this now. It's still leaking a little bit around the nozzle, but it's still taking a lot of force to do that. So you want good air compression, because obviously you want all of that air to not be leaking around your air nozzle and elsewhere. You want it to go directly out the front, and obviously to push your BB out to the barrel. So we've got a vented cylinder, standard looking gear set, nothing special, standard looking wiring, all very, very standard, but very solid and very well built. Evidence of shimming in there as well. As we sort of reassemble it, I'll see if there's any motion in there. So I'm going to hook the spring back on there, and the spring sits on this peg at the front, like that. In fact, I forgot to do my own thing. I'm going to move the gears back around. There we go. What I'm looking for is to get the teeth out of the way of the piston, like that. And then it's not going to interfere whilst we're trying to reassemble. So spring goes on. So this is your tappet plate. If this is not attached, the tappet plate is broke, which sometimes can be one of the issues for not feeding, but I'd check other things first. So that goes in there. Spring goes down, checking that that's moving, and it is. Piston is sat in its tracks nicely. Perfect. All the wiring's in the right place. I'm going to drop that back on. Wiggle the trigger, because the trigger was slightly out of place, making sure that it's all flush around the seam, which it is, and then I can refit all of the screws. So I've now reattached all the screws. I've not shown it because the phone keeps overheating in the heat. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back to the safe position, which is the larger gap there and the smaller gap at the front. This is just going to drop through from this side. The orientation of this matters not one little bit. And then I'm going to drop the cog on it from this side. Now it is a D shape, and there is a D shape hole. Please don't force this on in the wrong orientation, because you are going to damage something. I did comment as well when I was unscrewing these screws that this particular screw was a bit difficult to come out. It has got some malformed threads on the bottom of this particular screw towards the bottom. It still came out and it's still secure, but it was a bit malformed. Little bits, it just looked like some of the quality controls maybe not being as fully there as we would hope it to be. So I'm going to bring back in this little selector here, which, if I'm right, yeah, so you've got the short bit at the front, the longer bit at the back. So that's all good now. Now we're going to come back to, I did notice earlier when I was trying to split the upper from the lower, that a little piece suddenly appeared. Now that little piece is a little tiny pin that's off the end of this rod and sits into this little gap here, just that feeds through there. Now this, as it stands at the minute, will sit perfectly on there in this gap, and the gearbox will hold it in place when it drops back in a minute. But obviously, for whatever reason, it should be on that particular, it should be pivoting on that little gap, and it's very weak and soft, and obviously because of the what they call it, the pin breaking off and the tight fitting, it has actually snapped that tiny little pin, but it should still work, which we'll test. What I've done, just to help it along, is I've rotated the spring. The spring was bent that way, now bent it back the other way to create the right sort of pivot point as we need it to be. So I'm going to feed this back in, and the wires. I was really impressed to start with, and like the quick change has really impressed me. However, I'm now at a point where I'm just, certain things just sort of coming out that I'm just a bit like, why? Now, has that little spring come out? No, it's still there, it's just not. Right, so there is like a lug here on the front of the gearbox that holds this in the right position. So I know it's going to be in the right position, and it's going to do its job catching against where it needs to catch against. So that's all good. So I'm going to put the back pin in again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can maneuver this back into place. Aha, I beat your clip. So I've got the clip back in. So if you are disassembling it, I literally just put it on the end of the magnet, it got in the right position and managed to push down on top and get it to drop back in. So I'm happy with that. Next thing, I'm going to put the trigger pin back in as well. Again, remembering that the teeth were on the, what would be, if you're holding it, pointing out, it would be the left side of the receiver. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this selector on first, and then I'm going to have a mild panic attack about attaching the other receiver in a second, the other selector in a second. Right, that's that one in position. Right, here we go. So I'm going to very delicately drop that ball in there, hopefully not lose it. To very delicately push that on top, and hope that there we go, it's dropped into place. And then I'm going to panically hope that that goes into place. And we have nicely got those back in position, and I am sure at some point I'm going to look down and realise that there is something I am missing. Tighten that down. This one is a touch looser than the other selector. That's nicely doing its job still. Next, we're going to drop the spring back in, and then the spring guide back in, and we're just going to initially finger tighten that. As it gets down to the end, I'm just going to chuck the screwdriver back through it and nip it off. I'm happy with that. I'm going to bring the sling plate in and drop that in. Now I'll show you what happens with this. So we're just going to feed the wiring through. So initially I need to find, where's the, so it goes on like that and then twists. And then what we do is we use this to tighten it down against that. So I can just finger tighten that. Might get some adjustable grips on that, or see if my armorer's wrench fits that after the disassembly. But that is that part done so far. Next thing, we're going to bring back in the ambidextrous selector. So I'm just going to drop that into place. I'm going to drop the spring back into place. I'm going to drop the catch the button back into place, and then hold it all together with vice-like grip whilst I drop that in there. And tighten it down. There we go. Nice and secure. Good. Next, going to bring, we'll leave that until the upper's gone back on. It probably wasn't in the way at all actually, but just to be safe. Safety first, everybody. So I'm going to put the red wire in the front there. The black wire comes in at the back. Now don't forget the black wire, I've manipulated it in. There we go. Comes across to the front. So I'll show you that in a second. Need my Phillips head. Make sure you, before you start screwing in, you roll the screw back a little bit to basically get into the threads properly so you don't thread them. So you should hear a click. Tiny little click then. Tiny little click then, and then it will easily just go back into its own threads without any issues. There we go. So the black wire came in at the back. We need to push it that way forward, avoiding the hole where the motor goes. That's in there nicely. The black terminal goes to the front, the red to the back. So at this point then I'm just going to drop the black terminal on there. There we go. The red terminal then comes around the side and drops onto the red wire at the red terminal at the back. I know it's the positive wire because it's got like a red line on the wire itself. Let's get my ultra fine needle nose. It's proving to be a little bit tricky. If you do want to see my outtakes, being a channel member gets you my channel outtakes. So those are in now, finally. We drop in the motor plate, motor base plate. Now that should freely just travel in and out. There shouldn't be any real like sort of tough friction there. You shouldn't be having to like sort of fight against anything. If you are, or it sort of locks itself in place without being screwed in, then something is not right and you need to undo it basically and take it back out. So I drop one screw in, dog's back in at the neighbours. Fit the other screw in, base plate comes back in and twists back into position nicely. All good. Now we're going to put the upper back on, and the upper just slides in quite nicely until we get to this bit, and then I'm going to have to twist it until, helps if I remove the front pin, doesn't it? Come on, Pheas. There we go, that's in place now. Drop that front pin back in. There we go. Hopefully now I'm going to put this back in position. Now, hopefully you can see it. There is like a square hole in this side here that this little rod goes into. So just push down on this side. You're pushing it down like that just until the catch goes in. And at this point then, I'm going to bring the little rod back in that secures this in place, remembering that the teeth were on this side. Right, I'm just going to take this off camera to punch this back in. It does catch back, but you need to sort of give it a bit of a jiggle, but it catches back on and releases again. Happy days. And then all that's left to do is to bring our stock back in, make sure our wiring is folded neatly back into the stock. Use our flathead again to get in there, open it up, and there we go. And we just need to adjust it to our liking, click that back in, and there we go. Job's a good end. Now, that's been a little bit hard work. There's a few sort of quality control issues there, I suppose, in terms of the screw at the bottom of the gearbox shell and the pin on that bolt release itself on the right hand side. But other than that, absolutely rock solid build. I do really like it actually. This is the second ENC I've had, and I'm more and more impressed with this one than I am last time, other than those couple of little issues. So hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed it immensely. Please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.